Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. It's that time of the week once again. Liveries of the week is returning, this time with episode number 4. Now if you do want your chance to enter your livery into one of these videos, be sure to tag your creations with this hashtag. I constantly search this up every couple of days or so to have a look what's new and about using this hashtag, and there is plenty of great options available. And I do recommend, if you want some cool liveries that haven't even featured yet, to go ahead and check out that hashtag in the showcase section of the game. However, let's get into episode 4, starting off with obviously the new cars from update 1.46. First up we have Azabir, who has this Skoda Motorsport VGT livery. This one is obviously inspired as a manufacturer styled livery with obviously the awesome integration of the Czech Republic flag, where obviously Skoda hail from. This is an absolutely amazing livery and one that I've been running pretty much since day one on my Skoda VGT, and I'll probably never ever change it. Again, this one showed up in my review for the Skoda VGT, which like I mentioned did exceed my expectations. I feel like this one is an absolute stunner when it comes to, I guess, making the most of the design of the VGT. There's the beautiful sort of like greeny accents to almost everything. That grey colour is absolutely striking as well, and obviously the implementation of the Czech Republic flag working very well to make this feel like an almost official manufacturer livery. So great job Azabir. Let's move into car number 2. This one is by That Factor, and this is a livery I was desperate to see for this car, and someone did go ahead and make it on day one. A Dig Dug Racing Team Lizard Bonfire inspired livery. Now the first thing I thought when I saw the AFEELA was the fact that it looks like a car from my childhood, mainly from Ridge Racer Type 4, the Lizard Bonfire, and the most iconic colour for me was the Team Dig Dug Racing livery. Seems like there was also like-minded folk out there who also agree with me that the first thing that comes to mind when you see the AFEELA is that Lizard Bonfire, and like I mentioned, for me Team Dig Dug Racing was definitely the highlight livery, that awesome light blue. However, I believe the same livery creators have also gone on to recreate a bunch of the manufacturer teams as well for this one. I absolutely love this livery, and it was a massive throwback. If you've never played Ridge Racer Type 4 and you want a classic arcade racer to play, I fully recommend trying that in the Classics collection. Here's an in-game screenshot from Ridge Racer Type 4 all the way back in 1999, I believe, when it released, and as you can see it pretty much resembles the car identically, really. It is great to see this one made in game. So let's move on to the third and final car of update 1.46. For me this is an absolute must. It was very hit and miss for the Chevelle liveries, but this one is by Akabera 15, I believe, who has an editable stock stripes livery. Now the reason I like this one is it is fully editable, so if you want to go ahead and obviously, you know, change the colours and all that kind of stuff and just keep the very basic stripes to it, then you can go ahead and do this, and I think it looks absolutely superb. The wheels are spot on, the colours again very much changeable, it keeps it really kind of classy and clean, and that's really the looks I like for the Chevelle. Again, the liveries were very hit and miss for this car. Some of them were just a bit too much. I think when it comes to American muscle cars, the sort of more classy and cleaner looking styles really just do it for me when it comes to those vehicles, and for me it's an absolute must on the Chevelle. It keeps a very nice look to it whilst keeping it very plain and very simple, and again, like I mentioned, when it comes to American muscle cars, that is always going to be the way for me. Again, there was a bunch of people using my hashtag that actually did submit liveries, and whilst I did check out as many as possible, for me this has just been my go-to as soon as this car released. So let's get into another one that I've been using recently, and one that's away from my personal hashtag. This is for the BRZ, and this is a car that I ran during the Toyota or TGR Cup for round 1 with the BRZ and GR86. So I went for Subaru for this one, and this livery just stood out straight away, giving it that very beautiful cup car vibe. I'm a sucker for sort of road cars turned into cup cars, and this felt to, you know, basically fit that bill. There was no other livery that stood out to me half as much as this one, and I felt like I just had to give it a shout out. So for me, when it came to the TGR Cup, I was very specific in what I envisioned to have as my livery for that round of the sort of, you know, TGR Cup itself. For me, I didn't want all the fancy big rear wings or anything like that. I just wanted sort of the base model with a clean replica style livery on it, and this one absolutely fit the bill. For me, I slapped it straight on the car, and in all honesty, once again, I just don't think I'll remove it. There was nothing out there that really quite ticked that sort of cup car box. However, that is going to lead us straight into this cup car livery by Baby Driver, who has the Rolex 997 cup car for the Porsche 911 997 from 2009. Now for me, this is one that at first I found very, very strange. I found these sort of colour choices and such just a little bit weird for the Porsche. For me, it really harks back to sort of a more British manufacturer brand, but the more I've used it, the more it's grown on me and the better it just appeals to me. And with 2 cup car liveries in a row, like I said, I'm an absolute sucker for them. Again, for me, cup cars are very, very cool, and this 2009 model that we have here, although it is a road car, it can very much look like a full-blown replica of the cup car of that generation, and I feel like it probably is one of the more legendary cup cars of all time. I really, really like this car. Like I said, once I'd used it a bit and sort of got my head around the colours and stuff and started adjusting to it, the fact that this is on a Porsche and not an Aston Martin, Lotus or anything like that, I just completely fell in love with it. And that's going to move me on to Class Sneaky, who has this stunning Lancer Evo 9, one of the more recent additions to GT7, and a livery that I'm pretty sure I very recently saw in another racing game, the Crew Motorfest. I mean, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong there, but I'm pretty sure that in around about December of 2023, when we got the Gymkhana DLC for the Crew Motorfest as Season 1, this was sort of the highlight car of the bunch, and it pretty much looks identical in GT7. In fact, when it comes to sort of, I guess, replicating the livery and the whole style, it looks absolutely insane just how well they've kind of took it and brought it in game using the Evo 9 base model. It's absolutely incredible. I really, really like this livery. Again, previous to this, I was running sort of my own livery, which is sort of a base black with a racing number on it, not really too much going on. However, this one pretty much uses the best in terms of styled parts for this one. No huge rear wing, just kind of keeping it with this sort of OEM style to it, whilst giving it that very mean and aggressive look. And that's going to move me into the Force, or the Evil Genius, who has this Chevrolet ZR1 C6 Corvette livery. Now for me, like I did mention, when it comes to the sort of whole Need for Speed Shift Unleashed sort of styled liveries, I'm a sucker for them, and this one ticked all the right boxes. I don't know if you kind of took that on board from what I said when I mentioned about the Z4 GT3 machine, but when it comes to the C6, this is an absolute monster. It really gives me that sort of late 2000s grunge vibes, kind of, you know, maybe even the early 2010s at that point. I feel like this sort of styling of vehicles has kind of faded away over the last decade or so, but for me it was very kind of present in the sort of late 2000s, early 2010s, with the likes of, you know, Dirt 2, Shift, you know, the Shift title, Shift Unleashed 2 and all that kind of stuff. It was a very present style that's kind of, you know, faded away in recent times, so it is great to see that people are still making this liveries. So let's stay with the tuner culture theme we have going on. This one is by Haircord, who makes this stunning S2000 Time Attack livery using decals to create custom aero bodywork. And, well, it's on perhaps one of my favourite cars of all time, the Honda S2000. I absolutely love this thing. Now, he did have a few available. He had a black one and this white sort of one we're seeing here, and for me this one just stood out from the rest, and it's on perhaps one of my favourite brands of all time, Honda. I do own a Honda in real life, I own a Type R, so for me I've got a lot of love for the brand. I absolutely just love the tuner culture around these cars, you know, the sort of track day vibe that goes along with them. And for me, just seeing the S2K get this pretty insane aero bodywork just made from decals in a proper Time Attack aggressive look was an absolute must to go on my S2000, which been needing a new livery for probably around about 2 years at this point. Absolute no-brainer, solid, fantastic work with this one. I love the artistic fantastic vibe of using decals as aero work. And that's going to move me on to Gabuff0809, who makes this 917 Porsche livery, and I think it looks absolutely incredible. Again, inspired by the recent Nations Cup, although that did get changed last minute, that we couldn't use our own vehicles, so it was all preset liveries in the end. This was one that I was running sort of while testing the car and getting used to it, and again, it really does feel like something that Porsche themselves would actually recreate on the 917 Legend. It's absolutely incredible. It really does, just like the Skoda to begin with, feel like a proper manufacturer job. It's very kind of clean and basic, although it's got, you know, the big bright sort of Porsche branding all over it. It's not too busy to the point where it just sort of becomes overkill on what is a very clean and very visually stunning car. So again, great work with this one. I've been using it all the time recently, especially up with the practice for the recent Nations Cup, and it's probably become a firm favourite for me. And that's going to move me on to another returning Legend one, very much like the Lister Storm a few weeks back. Debro brings in this Minolta Sauber C9. Obviously the Minolta is not present in GT7, obviously famously on that Toyota, and unfortunately we don't actually have the proper means to get that car in game currently, but this probably is the next best thing. The beautiful light blue, that Minolta sponsoring, the white, the wheels being white as well. I just honestly had to pick this one. It really stood out to me straight away. Debro has some fantastic liveries. In fact, some of his work is some of the best livery creation I've ever seen in GT7 period, and it's great to see him recreating these sort of, I guess, fantasy classic cars on cars that don't actually currently exist in game as of yet. Will we see the Minolta down the line? Who knows, maybe so. I believe it was a standard car back in GT5 and 6, so it might be a way off at this point, but for me it's an absolute must. So again, a big congratulations to everyone who featured on this list this week, and a big thank you to everyone who submitted their liveries. Even if it didn't make it this week, there is a chance it will make it down the line. Again, I do love covering the community made work here. I think you livery creators need more credit than you actually get, and I wish there was a way to sort of reward you guys in terms of in-game and stuff with more than just a like and that. So this is why I've obviously bought this series, and this is why it's going to be a long-running series on the channel. I absolutely love to see this work, so keep it coming. I'll have another episode next week. Again, use that hashtag to get your livery featured. I'll try and cover as many as possible as we go through all of these episodes on a weekly basis. Have a fantastic day, guys, and I will see you later. Take care. Peace.